Welcome, 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 everyone. Come on in. The water's fine. Come on in. Let's get this conversation started. We've got a lot of ground to cover. Welcome. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for joining. Thanks for watching. Come on in. Come on in. Share this. Invite some other people to check it out. This conversation is going to be dope. What's up, brother Jason? What's crack-a-lackin'? Hello, Eulela. So let's go ahead and get started. Hey, Gail. Thanks for joining. Hey, Crystal. Joe Billion. Okay, I like it. I like it a lot. I like it a lot. So we're going to go ahead and get moving on this conversation. Got a lot of ground to cover, and so I want to go ahead and dive right in. Go ahead and tag somebody or invite them or send them a text message and remind them that Fusion is on. I want to welcome everybody who is watching right now. And I want to get started by basically, first of all, thanking all of you for watching. Hey, Laviana, Shavana, Vadavishtai, Vashtai. Did I say that right? What's up? What's up, Kier? So I want to start by saying that it's a blessing for those of you that tune in every week. And I've been getting some very positive texts and email messages and been getting some very encouraging notes from people who have been inspired, who have been touched, who have been blessed by these lives. And so I want to read one to you, and I'm going to read some more as they come in. But it says, "Hey, Joe, just wanted to say thank you for all of the positivity you post on Facebook. I've always been a go-getter, but recently lost my drive to push outside of my parameters. Well, I'm now learning real estate and networking along with putting together another business idea. You rock, and you have inspired me. Oh, yeah, I met with Dr. Nicole as well. Dr. Nicole, if you all have been watching, she is my business coach. And she was my first guest on here on Fusion. And so this is one of the watchers, one of the followers. And I was very encouraged by that. And the thing that what's up, Dion? Hey, Nikia. The thing that really encouraged me is that not just her saying that she's been encouraged, but that she's actually putting action to it. She's, gone to my business coach and made an appointment, and she's studying, how to invest in real estate, and she's starting another business thing. And so that makes me feel good because that's what I want. I want action. I want people that's going to watch these podcasts, get inspired, but not just stop at being inspired, because inspiration and motivation can go away. But when you get up and put action to it and get it cracking, then that's when you'll see movement in your life. So thank you very much for that. And I've gotten some more. I'm gonna read some more as we continue to go along. There's an inspirational quote that I saw. I literally saw it this morning. And I was like, I love this. And the quote is, and I think it's a good start to this conversation. It says, anybody from anywhere can accomplish anything. Anybody from anywhere can accomplish anything. Say that with me. Anybody from anywhere can accomplish anything. Type it in the comments. Anybody from anywhere can accomplish anything. We just got finished talking about last week, the last 2 weeks, talking about self-limiting beliefs and the need to think big. And that's a good mantra. That's a good statement for you to put on your wall, on your mirror, on your screensaver, on your phone, wherever. Anybody from anywhere can accomplish anything. Kind of reminds me of that scripture that says, if thou canst believe, all things are possible to him that believes. It's the same thing. Anybody from anywhere can accomplish anything. And that's so powerful. And that's going to take us into our conversation that we're about to have. So strap your seatbelts on. Yeah, buckle your seatbelts on. Do you need to say on? Put your seatbelts on. We get ready to go for a ride. So the topic of conversation is wealth and ownership, the real Black power. You say, now, Joe, what are you talking about? Because right now we're living in a time of great social unrest, and we've seen these types of periods of unrest in the past. You know, the 60s was a great period of social unrest. Early 70s, we've seen uprisings in the inner city in the 90s. We've seen them in the 2000s. But it seems like this time it was different. And I think a couple of reasons why it's been different. It's number one, it's because we've had so many of these incidents, like the George Floyd incident, that have happened repeatedly over the years. And especially here recently, there's been several incidents that have happened back to back. And so I think that all of those things compounded with the even though we've had other things that have been on video, listening to George Floyd beg for his life, listening to him say and tell the officers that he can't breathe, listening to him call out for his mother, I think the horror of that video shook people. And when I say people, I'm not talking about Black people, because Black people, we've been outraged. But I'm talking about shook the rest of the world, and people who may have, in the past, they've been a little silent, or in the past, they've been on the fence about things, or in the past, they didn't really join into the cause the way they have this time. And of course, we know, there was other agitators and people who had their own agendas latching on to our pain and our hurt. But there were legitimate people that were outraged that I think in the past weren't necessarily outraged. We're seeing businesses, we're seeing corporations, we're seeing people that don't have to speak out, speaking out and saying, this is not cool. I know I was in a suburb of Detroit having dinner the other day, and this particular restaurant that I go to, it's in an affluent suburb, and I haven't seen very many Black people in this particular restaurant. Usually when I'm there, I'm usually the only Black person there, or maybe one other Black person is in there, but nothing but white people go to this restaurant. And I go there, and there's a sign in the window that says Black Lives Matter. And that made me feel good, because I know they weren't just pandering to Black people, because Black people don't go in there. They were literally taking a stand. And so I felt good about that. You know what I'm saying? And so we're starting to see more and more of that, more and more other races and people who don't have to say anything that are saying stuff. So it's different this time. But I have a concern, though. My concern is that now that we have the attention of the world, now that we have the eyes and the ears, and we have the concern of corporations, of politicians, of entities and establishments that have not typically been public about social issues that concern people of color. What are we going to do with that? What are we going to do with the attention that we now have on our issues? Are we going to squander it on symbolic gestures? And I don't have anything against symbolic gestures, because you need symbolic gestures. Symbolism is important. Don't get me wrong. But are we going to allow ourselves to be placated? And are we going to allow ourselves to be satisfied with taking down Confederate flags, tearing down statues of Civil War generals who who led in the Civil War for the South? I love the fact that they painted the mural of Black Lives Matter in DC. I love that. I love the fact that they painted the mural on the ground here in Detroit, where it says "Power to the People," right on Woodward Avenue in downtown Detroit, with the fists up. I love that. But is that all there is? Is that what this fight is for? Is that all we're going to extract from this? I've seen a lot of videos on social media. People have been posting videos of Black people encountering the police, being pulled over by the police or whatever. And in the video, they're chastising the police or cussing the police out or yelling at the police or going off on the police or refusing to show their ID. And they're getting away with it, in a lot of cases. I've seen a few videos where the person in the car was chastising the police officer for pulling them over, and maybe he had his hand on his gun or whatever. And, they went off. But is that what we're fighting for? Are we fighting for the right to go off on the police? All these things are low-hanging fruit. And I'm not knocking them. I think that it's great that we're swinging the pendulum in our direction. But what else are we going to get from that? That's going to reposition us for long-term success, for long-term growth, for long-term empowerment. Because all of those things are temporary. But if you don't have any power to influence change and to influence policy and to influence decision makers, then you really it's all just gestures. It's going to placate us. And then this will die off. And then life will go back to normal until the next incident. So what I'm talking about is, how do we leverage this? Now, I'll give you an example of what I mean. There's a young man, I've spoken about him before. His name is William Picard. And I love his story because he is a multimillionaire. He's worth about 500 million right now. But his started in civil rights and social justice movements in the late 60s. Now, let me explain that. Let me break this down, how this goes. So in the late 60s, just like now, a lot of the corporations were trying to figure out, like, what can we do? How can we help? How can we create opportunity or show that we're down for the cause? Like, what can we do? So an activist group went to McDonald's and basically said, you don't have enough minority franchisees. or minority-owned franchises. So not only do you need to have more minority-owned franchises, but you need to create a program by which minorities can own McDonald's franchises. And so I'm not going to go through the whole story because I got too much else to talk about. But long story short, McDonald's did create a minority franchise program. William Picard and his partner entered that program, and they became one of, if not the first, Black McDonald's franchise owners in America. And they opened the first McDonald's franchise in 1971. So he made tons of money. They opened other McDonald's. I think the first one they opened was in Flint. Then they opened other ones. There was a few in Detroit that were owned by William Picard. And so he made a lot of money. And then in 1989, where his money came from, he started a supplier company where he became a minority supplier to the big three. And he started a company called Global Automotive Alliance in 1989. And since they've opened, they started with one plant. Now they own 8 plants in the US and in Canada. They supply parts for companies you probably never heard of, but I'm going to read them anyway. Boeing, Mercedes-Benz, Ford, GM, Chrysler, Starbucks, Home Depot. That's just some of them. There's a long list of companies. Over 1.5 billion in sales. His company is he's worth personally about 500 million, like I stated. He's given millions of dollars to, he gave $1 million to the National Museum of African American Culture in Washington, D.C. He's given money to the Motown Museum here, the African American Museum here. He's done a lot. Okay. And I'll tell you more about his book later. But it all started because he availed himself to a program that was created because of the civil and social unrest that came after Dr. Martin Luther King's assassination. And prior to that, there was the uprising here in Detroit in '67. There was also an uprising in Newark, New Jersey. When Dr. King got killed, there were several riots that took place and uprisings that took place around the country. And so this was an initiative that was birthed out of that. So as a result of that, he was able to parlay that into wealth for himself and empower other people. So the question I'm posing is, murals on the ground are great, but how does that empower us? Tearing down a Confederate flag is great, but how does that empower us? Tearing down statues of, Southern, Civil War leaders, I'm for it. But how does that empower us? I'm talking about empowerment where we're in charge of our own destiny. I'm talking about empowerment where we control our own situation. I made a meme that I'm going to post as soon as I get done with this live that says, if you own it, you don't need inclusion. We fighting for inclusion. If you own it, you don't need inclusion. You just include yourself. We fighting for, hiring, convicted felons. Convicted felons can't get jobs. If we own the job, we can hire who we want to. We fighting for, fair housing. We want affordable housing. So if you want to build a condo, if you want to build an apartment, in the city of Detroit, you have to include so much of a percentage of the building has to be affordable housing. If you're the real estate developer, you can have in there who you want to have in there. Or better yet, if we empower our people, we don't have to have affordable housing. We can just afford to live there. So the whole building becomes affordable housing. I'm talking about ownership, people. I'm talking about true empowerment. When's the last time you saw a millionaire's march for freedom? When's the last time you saw a billionaire's march for equality? When's the last time you saw Jews marching for fair treatment? Not ever. Or like they said, not never. You know why? Because when you got money, you can affect the system in other ways. You just pick up the phone and get done what you want to get done. You ain't got to march. You ain't got to burn nothing down. You ain't got to tear nothing up. You ain't got to do that. None of that. You pick up the phone and be like, yeah, Mayor, if the prosecutor doesn't prosecute those police officers, he's going to be out of there and you're going to be out of there too. Click. I was watching a documentary and I looked for it today. I can't remember the name of it, but they were interviewing millionaires and billionaires. And so they asked this billionaire, he was talking about how he contributes to the campaigns of both Democrats and Republicans. And so the person asked them, they said, why do you contribute to these political campaigns? You know what he said? He said flat out. He said, I contribute to these political campaigns so that when I call, they pick up the phone. Period. He said, I contribute to these campaigns so that when I call, they pick up the phone. When I need a favor, they do it. And he said it flat out. I mean, he said it with a smirk on his face. Like, yo, that's why I contribute. That's power. And so we sometimes, because we as African Americans have not had true power in this country, that's the reason why we have to fight the way we fight, right? So, Martin Luther King said, writing is the language of the unheard, right? So that's the way that we have to be heard, and it's a shame that we have to be heard that way, but that is the way we have to be heard. So I'm not criticizing that. What I'm saying is that now we have to turn our attention to fighting another way, because we can't keep doing that. Like, the good part is that things this time escalated to a point to where I think people who hadn't heard us before have heard us now. The downside to that is every time you do it now, you got to one up it, because next time it's not going to be as impactful, because it's like, okay, they'll set the buildings on fire. We'll put them out. It'll be the same thing. But when you hit these people where it hurts them, and I'm not talking about burning down a building, I'm talking about affecting their bottom lines in ways that causes them to move, because they need money to campaign. They need money to control things. They need money to be in power. And so I'm not just talking about taking away, I'm talking about building. Now watch this. Now, I just told you the story about William Picard and how he created his wealth from owning a McDonald's that was created from a program that stemmed from social unrest. Now, a few weeks ago, there was a list on social media, a list of restaurants and establishments that we were told not to patronize because those CEOs of those restaurants contributed money to Donald Trump's campaign or whatever. So I know it was Wendy's, it was Popeyes, it was Panera Bread, it was this one, it was that one, it was this, that one, blah, 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 blah. I get it. But let me propose something else to you. What if, instead of canceling those entities, what if we went to them and said, okay, you rubbed us the wrong way by supporting Trump. So unless you want to be canceled, unless you want the fire of our community to come down on you, we want ownership now. You done ticked us off. So now the only way to fix it, we want ownership. Guess what? They do that in the mafia. If you violate, let's say you're in a mafia family and you own a vending machine company, and another mafia member steals a truck with some of your vending machines on it. They have a sit down and the boss says, okay, you violated this man. So now you got to give him a piece of your company. You got to give him a piece of your construction company. Did they do that to keep down the violence? So it's like, or they'll give them a tax. They'll say, okay, you violated this man, because they're trying to keep it from going to war. So you violated this man, so you need to give him $100K. And that's how they settle disputes. So the same kind of thing. It's like, okay, Wendy's, we need you to create a program. We want to see more minority ownership. And we want more minority contracts to supply your restaurants with things. So, okay, listen, all the Wendy's in Michigan, you're going to get your buns from this guy, from this Black-owned bun company. But we got our own in-house company that, we make all our buns in-house or whatever. We make all our straws in-house. Well, nah, not no more. You're going to get them from this guy. What you're doing at that moment is you're creating a lane of empowerment that's going to last beyond the emotionalism of being angry about a police killing. You're creating a momentum and you're creating a lane that's going to affect the community, and then tell that guy, now we're going to get you this contract, but you're going to a certain percentage of that deal, you're going to contribute to this organization that fights for social justice. Come on. We keep hearing this phrase all the time. It's chess, not checkers. It's chess, not checkers. It's chess, not checkers. But we keep playing checkers. And one of the reasons why we keep playing checkers is because we get emotional, and then we do everything from emotion. Everything from emotion. There's no strategy. Or if we do think strategy, we think things like, let's defund the police. That's the whole thing right now. Let's take the money from the police and put it into social programs. That's cool. Only problem with that is, number one, you still need the police to have resources, because there still are plenty of crimes happening out here every day. Number two, putting money into programs doesn't guarantee that crime is going to go down, because everybody that commits crime doesn't commit crime because they're poor. Some people, I know plenty of people, I know killers that came from good homes. They just chose the street life because it was more exciting, and they wanted to be what they saw, and they wanted, the money and the wealth that they saw the drug dealers have. So there's that. And then not only that, but defunding the police and retraining the police and putting the money into social programs still doesn't guarantee that you're not going to have a racist police officer who's going to put his knee in the neck of the next black man. But if you have power, if you have money, if you got skin in the game, what you can then do is you can influence what happens at a power level, at a leadership level. That's real power. We can't only boycott and disrupt and cancel our way out of this problem. If all you're doing is boycotting and disrupting and blocking traffic on the freeway and canceling people that say and do things that we don't like, those things are cool. I'm not knocking that. But it's going to take more than that. At some point, we got to stop. Well, I won't say stop canceling, but at some point, we got to start building. We can't just boycott. At some point, we got to determine who are we going to support and take our money and support them. You know what I'm saying? Okay, we can't just only disrupt. At some point, we got to start creating lanes and opening up doors of opportunity for empowerment. There was a movie that came out in 1978, and it was filmed here in Detroit. It was called Blue Collar. You can Google it. The movie started. The movie starred Richard Pryor, Yaphet Kotto, and Harvey Keitel. And in this movie, the three of them worked for Ford Motor Company, and they were a member of the UAW. They were members of the UAW. They were frustrated and they were angry because of how they were being treated by the union and by Ford Motor Company. So the three of them came up with this idea to break into union headquarters and rob it. So they break into union headquarters, and when they broke into the safe, they found that there was no money in the safe, but there were ledgers in the safe. And in the ledgers, there was evidence of corruption. So the union had been bribing and paying off city officials and things of that nature. And so they got these ledgers, and now they're trying to figure out, what do we do with these ledgers? What do we do with this information? There's clear-cut corruption going on. How do we use this as leverage? And so Richard Pryor's character was the radical, pro-black, power to the people, burn, baby, burn type of person. So he was like, we're going to take these ledgers and we're going to send them to the press and we're going to send them to the police and we're going to blow the whole thing up. We're going to tear down the union leadership and blah, 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 blah. And so Yaphet Kotto's character, whose name was Smokey, he said, hey, man, he said, you want to know what your problem is? He said, you're so busy trying to hurt them that you're not thinking about how to help yourself. Oh, that was powerful. You're so busy trying to tear them down that you're not thinking about how you can use this to help better your position. He said, we're not going to send this to the press. We're going to let them know that we have this, and we're going to name our price. And then we're going to hold on to them so that then after they paid us off, if they try any funny business, then we'll let them know, you know, we got you by the short and curlies. So I said that to say that that's a thing. Like sometimes we can get so caught up in wanting to tear down the thing that we're not availing ourselves to the opportunities of how we can build ourselves up and build up opportunities for our own selves and how to help ourselves instead of how to hurt them. We got to think creatively. We got to think how to build. We got to think how to construct and how to create opportunities for ourselves. Okay. Now, I want to talk about two individuals that you guys have heard about before. And they are great historical figures. And I'm speaking of none other than the great Booker T. Washington and W.E.B. Du Bois. Du Bois? Dubois. I think it's French. I think it's supposed to be Dubois. But people say Du Bois. If my last name was that, I would make people say Du Bois. I mean Dubois. Why? Because it just sounds cooler. They'd be like, hey, Joseph Du Bois. I'd be like, no, No. It's Du Bois. Booker T. Washington was born a slave, and he fought for racial equality. Both of these gentlemen were fighting for the betterment of Black people. They just had two different philosophies about how to do it. Okay. So Booker T. Washington focused more on entrepreneurship, building a trade, and succeeding economically more so than political action. Okay. He had, I'm going to read a couple of his quotes. One of his quotes was, "At the bottom of education, at the bottom of politics, even at the bottom of religion, there must be for our race economic independence." Again, at the bottom of education, at the bottom of politics, even at the bottom of religion, there must be for our race economic independence. So that's what he was about. He says success is to be measured not so much by the position that one has received in life as by the obstacles which he has overcome while trying to succeed. So this was what he was about. He believed that, you know, if Black people just focus on building and creating and doing our own thing, owning our own stuff, that would forward us. Don't shake the boat. Don't rock the boat. Don't, you know, raise a fuss. Just accept that things are the way they are and focus on building economically. Now, I have a problem with a part of that. Okay. I love the economic part, love the entrepreneurship part, not so much about the political part, because you need both. W.E.B. Du Bois initially supported Booker T. Washington. But later he broke from Booker T. Washington, and he focused more on political action, fighting for rights, you know, fighting for equality and fairness. Here's the reality. You need both. Okay. Now, W.E.B. Du Bois, he had believed in something called the talented 10th. Now, so basically both men had part right and part wrong. So Booker T. Washington had the build entrepreneurship, develop a skill, develop a trade, make yourself valuable, work within the system to overcome the issues. But the part that he had wrong was, like, you don't need political power, political action, whatever. W.E.B. Du Bois, the part that he had right was that you need political action, you need to fight the fight, you need to fight for justice. But the talented 10th part is the part that I don't quite agree with. He believed that the most talented, the most smart, the best and brightest of the race would lift the race up. So the Barack Obamas, the Oprahs, the Eric Holders, the doctors, the lawyers, the entrepreneurs, the millionaires, all of the successful Black people, the educated Black people, would lift up the rest of the race. And that's not quite what happened. It's not quite how that went. So they were both right and they were both wrong. But the part that Booker T. Washington had is the part that we need now, because we've had, like, the problem is we never had both things at the same time. We either had economic empowerment. So for example, Black Bottom here in Detroit, or Black Wall Street, which I'm going to talk about in a second. We either had that part, or we had the political part, which is what has happened in the past 50 years. You know, we've got Black mayors, we've got Black, you know, politicians, we've had a Black president, we've had political power, but we haven't had that married to the financial power, right? So, for example, let me give you an example with Black Bottom. Black Bottom was an area in Detroit where everything was Black owned. It was a neighborhood in Detroit where everything was Black owned Black. the doctors, the lawyers, the hotels, the grocery stores, the flower shop, the this, the that, the blah, 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 blah. Everything was black owned. What happened to Black Bottom? It doesn't exist anymore. Why doesn't it exist anymore? Because the city of Detroit or state of Michigan or whoever handles the highways and the byways decided to run a freeway through the neighborhood. So the neighborhood was torn down to make room for what is I-75 freeway here in Detroit. If we had had political power to go with the economic power, somebody could have picked up the phone and said, hey, we heard that you're going to run a freeway through Black Bottom. Make sure that goes away. Bye. But because we didn't have the political power, but we had the financial power, we just had to take it. So you need both. Now, there's a phrase that people use whenever you talk about economic power in the Black community, because there's two schools of thought. There's one school of thought that says that Black people need help from the government. We need programs. We need this. We need that to lift ourselves up. Then there's another school of thought in the Black community where we say, we have to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps. And the first thing that people say when you say pull yourself up by your bootstraps is, how can we pull ourselves up by our bootstraps when we don't have any boots? Oh my God. If you say that online, people will applaud you. They will praise you. That is the most profound thing that anybody's ever heard. How can you pull yourself up by your bootstraps when we don't have any boots? Well, I'm here to challenge that. And let me say this before I go into the challenging we don't have any boots. Anybody who claims to be pro-Black, anybody that claims to be for Black people, but all you talk about is what we can't do, I don't feel that you're for Black people. There's a lot of poverty pimps out here who they get paid and they make money off of pandering to the pain and suffering and the victimhood of Black people. Now, what's funny is Booker T. Washington commented on this back when he was alive. Now, he died in 1915, okay? He died in 1915, okay? He was born in the late 1800s. So this has been going on since back then. Booker T. Washington said, there is a class of colored people who make a business of keeping the troubles, the wrongs, and the hardships of the Negro race before the public. Having learned that they are able to make a living out of their troubles, meaning out of Black people's troubles, they have grown into the settled habit of advertising their wrongs, partly because they want sympathy and partly because it pays. Some of these people do not want the Negro to lose his grievances because they do not want to lose their jobs. Ooh. And that's still going on today. You still got these so-called pro-Black people, these leaders out here who all they talk about is how bad Black people got it and how bad we being done by the system and what the system has done to us and how we've been hurt and we've been wounded and we've been stepped on, but now we not going to take it no more and blah, 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 blah. And they go on and on and on with that, but they never present any solutions. You notice that? They never present any solutions. All they do is cater to our sense of victimhood, but then say, come pay to hear me speak, or help me build this Black school, or buy my book, or buy my DVDs. You know, it's one guy got a whole series of DVDs out, you know, and all it just focuses on all of the stuff that's been done and all the conspiracy theories surrounding Black people. But where are the solutions? I'm talking about realistic solutions. I'm not talking about let's leave and form our own country. Not saying that that can't happen, but yeah, I'm talking about realistic solutions, things we can do right now to change things. Okay. So anybody that claims to be pro Black but is not speaking empowerment, they're not pro Black. Period. I don't care what they say. Now let's talk about this. We don't have any boots. So there was something in the beginning of the century called Black Wall Street. Now, Black Wall Street is a slang term that was given to a place in Tulsa, Oklahoma called the Greenwood District. Okay. It was a powerful Black community, and it was, you know, completely Black owned, similar to Black Bottom here in Detroit, but it was a lot more powerful and a lot more wealthy. Okay. Again, banks, hotels, cafes, movie theaters, mansions, millionaires, all Black. People that owned airplanes. It was nothing but Black power. In Black Wall Street, the dollar circulated in the community 36 to 100 times and remained in Greenwood almost a year before it left. 36 to 100 times. And it stayed in Greenwood almost an entire year before it left. Now, what do I mean by circulating the Black dollar? What that means is I work, I get paid, I take my money, and then I go patronize Black establishments. Because I'm and others like me are patronizing those Black establishments, the owners are then able to pay their workers. Then their workers get their paycheck, and then they go patronize Black establishments. And then those Black establishments are also able to pay their workers, who then take their money and patronize Black establishments. And so I'm getting my clothes cleaned at the Black dry cleaners. And the guy who works at the Black dry cleaners is getting his teeth pulled at the Black dentist office. And all of the people that work at the Black dentist office are going and getting their taxes done at the Black tax preparer's office and the Black accountant's office. And the Black accountant is getting all his legal work done at the Black lawyer's office. And the Black lawyer, when they are bringing guests in town, they are putting them up at the Black hotel. And on 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 and on. And they created millionaires in their own communities. Now watch this. This is what I'm talking about when I say Black power. I ain't talking about putting your fist in the air. I'm talking about after you take your fist down out the air, what are you doing? This is a Black power move. Watch this. Where Black Wall Street came from, or the Greenwood District, the official name of the Greenwood District, there was a wealthy African American from Arkansas named O.W. Gurley, Gurley, who moved to Tulsa because he felt like he couldn't get ahead in the South. So he left Arkansas and moved to Tulsa. He was already a wealthy businessman. He purchased over 40 acres of land, and he only sold pieces of that land to Black people. That's how the Greenwood District was started. This wealthy Black man bought over 40 acres of land, and nobody white could buy parcels of that land, only Black people. So then he sold parcels of that land to other Black people and black entrepreneurs and black businesses and things of that nature. And that's how the Greenwood District was formed. That's a power move. That's power to the people. When you can use what you have as leverage to put, that's the ultimate power. When you can put other people in power, that's power. That's what I'm talking about. That's what we need to get to now, because we got black people with money. We got black people with all kind of money. But what are they doing to create lanes? I ain't talking about giving to charities. That's cool. Not knocking that. I'm not just talking about, creating, initiatives where, that's cool. I'm not knocking that. But are you putting things in motion to empower people? It's great that you own McDonald's franchises, but are you opening up a door so that more black people can own franchises? That's cool that you own whatever, you own this, you own that. But are you putting other people in power so now that they can then open doors? That's why we keep like getting so far and then stopping, and then getting so far and stopping, and then going so high and then stopping, because we get through the door and then and listen, I'm not for that, when you get to the top, send back down the elevator. Nah, I'm not sending the elevator down for everybody. You can't get on the elevator just because you're black. You have to earn your way, and I'll help you get there, because there's some things that you won't appreciate, you won't learn if it comes to you too easy. So I'm not talking about getting in the room, open the door and saying, hey, everybody black, come on in. You can't let everybody in, because some people are like the guy in Blue Collar. They're like Richard Pryor's character in Blue Collar. They don't want to help themselves. They just want to get in the room so they can tear the room up, because they've been mad about the room existing for so long. So they just want to come in. They want to tear it up and tear it down for you and them and everybody else. They don't care. They kamikaze with it. The kamikazes was in World War II. The kamikaze were the Japanese fighter pilots that they would just dive and crash their whole airplane into the ship and kill themselves and kill everybody on the ship. We don't care. We ain't trying to get home to our parents. We kamikazes. They're like suicide bombers in the terrorist world. Yeah, I'm not trying to get home to my family. I'm gonna blow me up, you up, them up, everybody up. So you got to be careful, because we do have that, and I've experienced that. I've experienced that firsthand. Somebody that's like, I tear all this up. Before I let you get it, I tear it all up. Like, come on, man. So you got to be careful of who you let in. And I remember I talked about that last week. That can be a self-limiting belief where you're like, as soon as I get on, I'm going to help everybody. As soon as I get through the door, I'm going to invite everybody in. It's like, no, slow down. Hold on, player. You better use some discernment. You better pray. You better, and and I know somebody who is a person of power and wealth, and I don't care what your sob story is. He like, I'll pray about it. I never will forget this guy. He was a businessman, but he was also a drug dealer. Don't judge me, and don't judge him. He's deceased now, but I remember this was about almost 30 years ago. I sat down with this guy. He had so much money because he was making money on the street side and on the legitimate business side. And he was trying to go legitimate. And he was old school. So he was older back then. So he had been in the game since like the 70s, old school gangster. But he was a businessman. So I was meeting with him about investing in something that I had going, a project that I had going on. And it was a friend of mine's father. That's how I got hooked up with him. And he sat down with me and he went to church. Okay. So he sat down with me and he said, Joe, this sounds like a great opportunity. He said, but I got to pray about it. He said, let me tell you why I got to pray about it. Now, this is the drug dealer. This is the street guy. He said, I got to pray about it. He said, because one time, he said, not too long ago, I lost $250,000 because a business acquaintance of mine came to me and asked me to help him out of a jam. He needed $250,000. He said, so I gave him the 250. And he said, because I knew he was good for it. I knew he could give it back to me. He said, long story short, I lost that 250. And he said, when I prayed about it and I asked God, why you let me lose that money? God said, because I never told you to help them. He said that person was going through what they were going through because I was chastening them. I was chastening them, and then you got in it with your money. So now that money's gone. That's a wrap. It's equivalent to if you were disciplining your child and then somebody else came and tried to help your child from the discipline you given them. They probably gonna get beat up. I don't care if it's the police or who it is. If somebody else come and try to get your child out of your clutches while you're disciplining them, they're gonna have a problem on their hands. And so it's the same way. This drug dealer / businessman had enough sense to learn that he needs to pray before he helps somebody, before he gives his money up, before he gives an opportunity to somebody. And that was probably God sparing me from a problem too. Because, I probably could have got in trouble for money laundering or whatever, but I was young at the time. I didn't care. I was from the hood. It was all money to me. I'm like, let's just get the job done. I ain't asking no questions. I ain't looking to give horse in the mouth. As far as I know, this is a legitimate businessman. We're meeting at his office. It was me, him, and his attorney, because his attorney was looking over the deal. So that's all. That was all I needed to know. But I knew where his money came from. But he had enough sense to say, I'm going to pray about it. So that's what y'all better do before you go helping people. You better pray about it, because some people are doing bad because they're not doing right by God. Ooh, this is where faith and business merge. So I just dropped a jewel on you. You better stick that in your pipe. My mama used to say, put that in your pipe and smoke it. Don't smoke that. This was before crack. She came up with that. Don't ignore that. Some people are having trouble and going through the problems that they're going through because they're not doing right by God. And then you come with your, I want to help everybody attitude, and you can get yourself in trouble and lose $250,000 because you're trying to help somebody you ain't supposed to. So be careful of that. Be careful of that. So to my point about Black Wall Street, the problem was that they had wealth, they had money, they owned stuff, but they didn't have power on the political side. But think about that for all of we don't have any boots. How can we pull ourselves by our bootstraps when we don't have any boots? These people didn't have anything. This was in the early 1900s when they did this. How did they do this? They pooled their resources. And guess what? You know who else does this? The Black church. The entity that so many people hate. You can hate it all you want to. You can still hate it. That's your business. That's between you and God. But from an economic perspective, they got it figured out. Well, actually, God had it figured out because it's in the Bible that we are supposed to tithe and give 10% of our increase. So the reason why Black churches have money is because a group of people take 10% of their earnings every week or every 2 weeks and pool it into the church's coffers for the business of the church to be handled. But the reason why you don't get that and see the power of the economics of that, and guess what? Churches are not made up of rich people. They're made up of middle class people, some upper middle class, poor people, some very poor. Yet churches have money because they're taking 10% of however much or however little money they have and pooling it together. And because of that pool, churches are able to hire staff. They're able to pay salaries. They're able to build buildings. They're able to get financing from banks. They're able to build initiatives. I know churches that own credit unions, churches that own senior housing. I know churches that give away food to the poor. I know churches that have paid for houses, giving away cars, um, 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 paid for funerals, paid for light bills, gas bills, cell phone bills, all kinds of stuff. Where do they get this money from? Because a group of people collectively pool 10% of their income. 10% plus, because they give tithes and offerings. And guess what? Every person who is a member of a church doesn't give. So not only are a group of people pooling together 10% of their income, it's not even all the people. So if you got a church with 500 people in it, all 500 of the people don't tithe regularly. So that church is operating off of a percentage of the people tithing. Yet they're still able to be financially secure. But the reason why you can't see that is because you're too hung up on why the pastor driving a Bentley. Instead of thinking, those poor people or those middle class people or those upper middle class people have enough money to pool together to pay the pastor enough to where he can drive a Bentley. And most pastors, I know a lot of pastors that have money. I know pastors personally, they don't even take salaries from their church. They're funding the church. There's a church that I'm involved with right now that I play at, sometimes on Sundays. And this pastor, he's a successful businessman. I was there Sunday, and he was talking about, this man's doing well. He got a house in Detroit, a house in Florida. He was talking about getting himself a Bentley, and he does all of it. He finances the church. It's about 20 people that go to that church. I'm not lying. If you come to that church on Sunday, you'll see about 20 people there. But they can afford to pay me. They pay the drummer. They pay the praise and worship leader. They pay, he pays our salaries. He's funding the church out of his pocket. So I just want to throw that in there. All pastors ain't stealing the money and all that kind of stuff. But that's what you can do when you create your own economy. The people in Black Wall Street created their own economy. The people in Black Bottom created their own economy. So all y'all that's talking about how can we pull ourselves by our bootstraps when we don't have any boots? Sounds like boots to me. African Americans have $1 trillion in spending power. Sounds like boots to me. You can break down the statistics of what we spend our money on, but one that I pulled out for myself to give to you all, we spend $573 million on an annual basis on beauty and grooming. $573 million just in beauty and grooming. I'm not saying that as a judgment. I want y'all to look good. I want y'all to be fly. I want y'all to get your beards lined up. I want y'all to get your hair did, your nails did, your feet did, all that kind of stuff. All I'm saying is, you said we don't have no boots. Yet we got $1 trillion in spending power. Even in the hood where poor people are, You'll see Jordans. You'll see $300 weaves, eyelashes. You'll see Gucci belts. You'll see iPhones. You'll see tablets. You'll see Gucci bags, Louis bags. Even the knockoffs aren't cheap. But you said we don't have any boots. And I'm not knocking them for spending their money on that. All I'm saying is you can't spend your money on that and say we don't have any boots. You can't do both. You can't say that we don't have any boots to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps, and this person is driving a brand new Charger in the hood. You go in the hood, you'll see Chargers. Back in my day, back in my day, it was we took old school cars and put rims on them and put some sounds in them. Back in my day, we took old school cars and put rims on them and put sounds in them. Now they get new cars, or if they're used cars like that's only a few years old. Chargers, luxury SUVs. You'll see a luxury SUV parked outside of a raggedy house. Again, I'm not judging that. Do what you want to do with your money. All I'm saying is you can't spend your money on that and then say you don't have money to empower us. We don't have money to empower ourselves. We can't spend money on that and say we don't have money to pool together to start businesses. We can't spend our money on that and then say we don't have money to open banks. We can't spend our money on that and then say we don't have any boots. Sounds like boots to me. 573 million just in beauty and grooming. That's boots. It's just wealth is all about, the reason why money is called currency is because wealth is about where it flows. So it's not about needing more money, because the lie that's being told to us is that we don't have money. No, we got money. It's just where is it flowing to? And are we controlling the flow of it in such a way that empowers ourselves? All we got to do is change the flow of the currency. There's something that I call the Tyler Perry principle. The Tyler Perry principle is when Tyler Perry came out in the late 90s, early 2000s, a lot of people weren't hip to Tyler Perry. They weren't hip to Medea. But when it came out, it exploded. And so when Tyler Perry came out with Medea, we, meaning Black people, packed out those theaters on the Chitlin circuit to see his play all over the country. He was doing consecutive sold out shows all over the country. And back then, stage plays used to open on Tuesdays, and they would run from Tuesday to Saturday. I know because I'm in the stage play business. I've been music director for stage plays. I've written and produced my own stage plays, so I know the game. Stage plays at that time opened on Tuesday. So from Tuesday to Sunday, you do Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 2 shows on Saturday, 2 shows on Sunday. He would pack all of them out. Then when he filmed his plays and put them on DVD, we bought them like hotcakes. So much so that by the time Tyler Perry went to Hollywood to negotiate his TV and film deals, he was already worth $50 million. $50 million? Yes, $50 million. All Black money. That was how much he had made from his plays and from his DVDs. All Black money. When he went to Hollywood to negotiate his TV and film deals, they had never even heard of him. They had never even heard of Medea. They didn't know nothing about him because Tyler Perry was a Black thing. It was a Black creation. What is the Chitlin circuit? The Chitlin circuit is what they would call, because back in the day, Black performers couldn't perform in white venues. So we performed in all Black venues for all Black audiences in cities that had predominantly Black audiences. So Detroit, Chicago, DC, Baltimore, the South, Oakland, California, all those places where there's a lot of black people. That was called the Chitlin Circuit. Tyler Perry made 50-something million on the Chitlin Circuit. So the Tyler Perry principle is, if we did that with stage plays, why can't we do it with grocery stores? If we did it with stage plays, why can't we do it with banks? If we did it with stage plays, why can't we do it with restaurant chains and franchises? If we did it with stage plays, why can't we do it with dry cleaners? If we do it with stage plays, blah, 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 blah. On and on and on we could go. Or they're not going to let you in the dry cleaning business. The agents got that sold up. Well, that's because we don't go as a collective. We go, one person get some money and try to go open one, when they got that whole thing sold up. So we got to move how they move. Why don't all the black salons band together and form a coalition? We're going to put money into this coalition, and we're going to go make moves into the beauty industry where we can own our own beauty supply. We're not going to buy from the Asians. We love you, Asians. Sorry. You've been good to us, Asians. Well, not really, because when we come in your store, you treat us like we're going to steal something. So what we're going to do is all the black beauty salons in Detroit, in Chicago, in this place, that place, we're going to form chapters of a coalition. We're going to put X amount of dollars, whatever your revenue of your salon is. We're going to take a percentage of that, same way churches do. Just like the Church of God in Christ form a national thing, a national body. The Baptists form a national body. The Pentecostals form a national body. We're going to form a national body of salon owners. We're going to take a percentage of our money that our salon make. All the stylists got to chip in. We're going to put money together, and we're going to buy wholesale beauty products. And we're going to buy it so much in bulk that we can match the prices that the Asians have. And they're going to sell to us because we're going to have the cash. And if they don't sell to us, then we'll form our own beauty product lines. We're going to get with chemists, and we're going to get with them. I know a chemist right here in Detroit that specializes in beauty products. Went to school. I ain't talking about a hobby. Went to school, got a degree in chemistry, and is a chemist. And we're going to form our own beauty lines, beauty product lines. And all the black salons are going to buy from these black owned. I'm just thinking of this on the top of my head right now. I'm just thinking of this off the top of my head. I just made this up off the top of my head. This is how we got to think, people. Power moves. This is the Tyler Perry principle. That's just one industry. So many industries. So many industries we can infiltrate. But we're not going to even get that far if we're just satisfied with power to the people murals on the ground and Black Lives Matter murals on the ground and tearing down flags. Not knocking none of that. I love all of that. But after power to the people, after we put our fist down, then what? What do we own? What do we control? What phone can we pick up to what politician to get them to do what we need them to do? That's what Booker T. Washington was talking about. And if we take the Booker T. Washington principle and marry that to the W.E.B. Du Bois principle, not the talented 10th part. Well, the talented 10th part would work too if we did it right, if the talented 10th actually connected with the rest of the black community and helped push it forward. So we got to change our thinking. Back to my last episode, think big. I'm almost done, y'all. So I want to talk about something since I touched on the picking up the phone and calling politicians. How does that part work? So what your homework is for next week is you're going to look up super PACs. It's 3 things I want you to look up. The first thing is super PAC. What is a super PAC? It's a type of independent political action committee that can raise unlimited sums of money from corporations, unions, and individuals, but is not permitted to contribute to or coordinate directly with parties or candidates. So PAC stands for Political Action Committee. So what super PACs are, the reason why they're called super PACs is because before that, there were these things called PACs. But they could only donate so much money. And so in 2010, the Supreme Court ruled in favor of something called the Citizens United ruling, where they said that money is speech. So corporations, unions, individuals that are wealthy, whoever, can give unlimited amounts of money to help with a campaign, but they can't contribute directly to the campaign. So, for example, they can do things like when you see those commercials on TV where it says, Donald Trump, has killed 20 babies and is orange and looks like a Cheeto. Don't elect the Cheeto. Don't elect Donald Trump. And then it says paid for by Citizens for a Fair America. That's what that Citizens for a Fair America is. Or Americans for Justice in America. Whatever. You've seen those commercials. It's one on now. You especially see them during election season. So what that is Joe Biden did his actual campaign didn't do that. The independent super PAC created that on Joe Biden's behalf. Okay, so look up super PAC. Also look up 501c4. A 501c. Now, most people are familiar with 501c3. 501c3s are your typical nonprofit organizations. Churches are 501c3s. If you're starting a nonprofit that does this or does that or does the other, typically they're 501c3s. So what a 501c4 is, it is a nonprofit that also can involve itself in politics. Now, 2 main examples of 501c4s are the NRA, which is the National Rifle Association. They have a lot of power. They influence a lot of things. And recently, the NAACP switched from a 501c3 to a 501c4. Because with 501c3s, there's certain restrictions that they have to engage in political lobbying. But now that they're 501c4, they can engage in political lobbying. Now, the thing with a 501c4 is that 501c4, its primary purpose can't be to influence or to get into politics. It can only be about 50%, but there's no way to monitor how much of a organization's activity is political versus what their normal activity is. So, for example, the NRA is not a political organization per se. It's a gun owners advocacy group, but they have a lot of influence when it comes to laws and lobbying. Now, 501c4s can own super PACs. A 501c4 can have an arm of its organization that is a super PAC. How about that? So you're going to look up super PACs, PAC, political action committees. You're going to look up 501c4, and you're going to look up lobbyists. Now, lobbyists are people whose business is to influence legislation, regulation, and other government decisions, actions, or policies on behalf of a group or individual who hires them. So lobbyists lawfully, this is legal, They lawfully attempt to influence the actions, policies, or decisions of officials, most often legislators or members of regulatory agencies. I've also so listen. One of the things that annoys me every time I hear it, and I know black people mean well when we say this, I hate when I hear black people say, we're not voting for this person because they don't care about us. We're not going to put this person in office because they don't care about black people. Listen, nobody cares about anybody. That's not how the system works. You don't get what you want because somebody cares about you. They form super PACs. They form 501c4s. They hire lobbyists who go in and they inject money into the system. They inject money. They use their money. They use their financial prowess to get meetings and to influence legislators and members of agencies and so forth and so on. That's how that works. It doesn't happen because someone cares about you. What are you talking about? They don't care about black people. Okay, I won't say what are you talking about. I get what you're talking about. I get what you mean when you say that, but that's not how the system works, people. And even if a politician or a person of influence or a person of power, even if they go into the job saying, I'm going to get there and I'm going to help my people and I'm going to fight and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. When they get there, they find out how it all really works. One of the movies, it's an old Eddie Murphy movie called The Distinguished Gentleman. And it's a comedy, but to me, even though it's a movie, to me, it gave me a slight little idea of how it works. You go there with all of this in mind of what you're going to do, and you're going to do good, and you're going to help, and you're going to fight the fight and help people and blah, 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 blah. And then you get in there and it's like, well, you can help your people, but before you help your people, you're going to help this person who contributed X amount of dollars to your campaign or helped you get elected by doing such and such and doing X, Y, Z and blah, 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 blah. And yes, you're going to keep him happy because when it's time for re-election, you're going to need him to write another check. And what did I tell you guys earlier? How are you going to get them to write another check? By answering the phone when they call. And by moving their agendas to the front of the line. It's so powerful that even things like the EPA, these corporations like the Koch brothers and all these billionaires and corporations and stuff like that wield influence. They're injecting so much capital into the system that they wield influence even with things that are destroying the planet. So they get presidents and people in regulatory agencies like the EPA to roll back things that protect the world, protect the environment, and so forth and so on. That's how much power they have. Gunmen can walk into a school and kill everybody. And the NRA is going to get involved, and there will not be gun control, gun nothing. The NRA is going to make sure of that because they're injecting so much capital into the system, and they're allied with politicians, congressmen, they're allied with leaders, blah, 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 to get their agenda across. Yes, it's sad that these gunmen came into school and killed everybody. We were amazed at how many bullets they had. But we are not for gun control. We're for responsible gun ownership. And not only are they going to not let gun control happen, not only are they going to not let gun control happen, they're going to say if you had teachers armed in that school, they could have stopped the gunmen. We're going to lobby for teachers to be able to have guns in schools. That's how the system works. And you can sit up and be mad about it. You can sit up and be angry about it. You can sit up and fuss about it, complain about it, whine about it. My thing is, as Black people, we got $1 trillion in spending power. Let's stop being mad about it and get in the game. Okay, well, we want our agenda moved to the front of the line. Why? So, like that millionaire said, when we pick up the phone, we get answers. Because not only do politicians need money for campaigns, they need money for their programs and their initiatives and their, things that they got going on and their charities and their this and that and the other. They need those billionaires and millionaires. They need those groups and those organizations. What's the point of forming a group or organization? The point of forming a group or organization is because of what I posted the other day. I got $100, you got $100, he got $100, but together we have $300. We have more at our disposal together than we have separate. So you form super PACs, you form 501c4s, you go out and hire lobbyists. You take your money and use it because the Supreme Court said you could. They said money is speech. And to limit how much money can be injected into the process is limiting free speech. We can't just be satisfied with murals. We can't just be satisfied with tearing down flags. We can't just be satisfied with tearing down statues. We can't just be satisfied with cussing out police in traffic stops and getting away with it. We can't be satisfied with any other gestures that the system is going to do to try to placate us. We need to go to these corporations. We need to go to these politicians with initiatives that can empower us, so that we can move money around and play the game the way it's being played, and stop waiting on somebody to care about us, and stop talking about we can't pull ourselves up by our bootstraps because we don't have any boots. Yes, we do. Okay, that's all I got. So thank you guys for tuning in, and remember your homework. I want you to look up super PACs. I want you to look up 501c4s. I want you to look up lobbying. Go on YouTube and watch videos where people are explaining what it is. You ain't got to just read it on Google. Some people reading works better for them, but sometimes it's better because sometimes with YouTube videos, the people can break it down into kind of like plain English. They can just really break it down for you and cut to the chase and help you understand, what these things are and how they work, and learn how the process works, and stop being mad about it and get in the game. Why don't Black people have super PACs? Why don't Black groups have lobbying groups? How come the church doesn't have a lobbying group? Why we don't have people that have that we can, not that they have our interests at heart so much in their heart, but because we're putting capital into the system, you gonna have our best interests at heart. We're gonna rebuild Black Wall Street and Black Bottom, and no, y'all not putting us a freeway through there. We shutting that down. The only reason why we have to use violence and physical force is because we feel powerless in other ways. So now let's not just stay stuck there. Let's take what we have and build our power. All right. I've been telling you every week about books that I want you to read. I'm working on the Fusion Book Club where we can, get together and read these books. So the book I want to talk about today is Millionaire Moves: 7 Proven Principles of Entrepreneurship by William F. Picard. He's the gentleman that I was speaking of earlier during the broadcast. Millionaire Moves: 7 Proven Principles of Entrepreneurship by William F. Picard. He tells the whole story of how he became a McDonald's franchisee owner, and how in 1989 he started his company and started Global Automotive, and he gives the principles that he used to bring about his success. So, Millionaire Moves: 7 Proven Principles of Entrepreneurship by William F. Picard. I also told you about The Jewish Phenomenon by Steven Silbiger. I also told you about The Wealth Choice: Success Secrets of Black Millionaires. This is the kind of stuff you got to start reading, people. The top 10 the top 10 distinguished. I got stuck. The top 10 distinctions between millionaires and the middle class by Keith Cameron Smith. These are books, and every week I'm gonna give you a new book for you to get in your repertoire and read and start injecting yourself with a different way of thinking and a different knowledge that you can empower yourself with. Detroit Startup Week is going on right now, and it's free. 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 R-UH. FREE. You don't have to pay a dime. You just go to Detroit Startup Week, you register, and when you register, you can pick what seminars you want to watch. It's usually live. It's usually in downtown Detroit. But this year, because of COVID, it's virtual. It's on Zoom. So once you register for the classes, then they'll send you a notification or a link of when you can click, how you can click on it and watch. They got everything. So no matter what phase you are, if you're just in the idea stage of your business, if you have a tech company, or if you have a startup, if you have a brick and mortar business, if you have, if you're a woman entrepreneur, if you're a minority entrepreneur, whatever you are, whatever you want information on, if you want information on finance, marketing, whatever, they have a seminar where you can watch and learn from successful individuals. So that's going on right now. That's the website, Detroit, right there, DetroitStartupWeek.com. It's free. All right. And it ends Friday. You need to reach me. Hit me up at joesmithworldwide@gmail.com. Send me your testimony. I want to hear from everybody. I want to hear what you think about the podcast, how it's been helping you, how it's been inspiring you, whatever you want to say. Send me an email. Shoot me an email. Talk to me. Let me know what's going on. Let me know what you're working on. Let me know your projects. Let me know what you're doing. I want to hear. I want to know. I want to know who you are. I want you to send me your emails, and I'll read them. And it inspires me. It helps me keep going. Blah, 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 blah. If you want to pause for the cause and throw me a little something, say, Joe, man, this is inspiring. This is helping me. I want to donate to you just for inspiring me and giving me a new fire, blah, blah, blah. Send me something. I don't care if it's $1. I don't care if it's $100. I don't care if it's $3,000. I'm not mad. If you want to send me $3,000, man, go ahead. I ain't gonna be mad at you. All right. Whatever you do, if you feel so led to do it. If you don't do anything, that's fine. I'm still gonna come bringing you the fire. I'm not gonna cheat you. This is not a setup. Most places or most people, what they do is they give you the free thing online so they can get you to sign up for the paid thing later. You know what I'm saying? So, and I'm not saying I won't do that. I'm just saying I ain't doing that right now. It's all free. So just, donate a little something if you can. Hit me up on Instagram as well as YouTube. And on YouTube, even if you watch this on Facebook Live, still go to my YouTube page, Millionaire Joe, my YouTube channel, and like and subscribe the video. Even if you don't watch the video again, because you just watched it, just go on YouTube, hit the like, hit the subscribe, because I'm trying to build my channel up, and hit the notification so you can be notified when I go live or post a video. All right? So that's what it is, y'all. I love y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in. I promise I'm going to come back with with some guests, but I really just had to get that out. And every every week I'm so impassioned about this. That's why I keep going live by myself. But I'm going to bring back more dope guests. I promise. I got some more guests coming. All right. So I love y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in. And like this, share it, like and subscribe on YouTube. And bam, we be back next week. Love y'all. Later.